The first time I meet that guy, Dungeon Master. So for context, I had this group and we already had been running games for a few games, like about 30 games so far. My players are Human Rogue, Half-Elf Druid, Dragonborn Paladin, Dwarf Cleric, and an NPC Dragonborn Kid that the Druid adopted. Also, I let the party teach the kids stuff like how the Rogue teaches the kid on how to stealth and lockpick. Mechanical, I just double the kid's proficiency or just made his DC lower for a few checks to make it feel like the kid is really learning from the party and to really show the effect that the party had on him. Yes, it did kind of made him broken, but I think he was in 3 total fights ever with the party and I made sure that he never really took any spotlight. So, most of the times I forgot the kid existed and the druid had to remind me of him by asking if the kid could do something for the party. Also, I made sure he was never outright better in anything than any one person in the party. This is just to show how much I want to make sure the kid is never taking the spotlight away from the party. I have heard of enough horror stories about DMPC. So I wanted to bring in one more party member because hey, why not? I was talking about D&D in this Discord server and a guy asked if he could join, and that is how I met that guy. He was a Dragonborn bard. First game, he starts hitting on Druid in and out of game. God damn it. First time she politely said no. Second time she said no. Third time I said stop it because I was getting annoyed and irritated. I told him one more time and he is out. He stopped for the rest of the game. After Cleric sends me screenshots of that guy being angry and called me some things I'd rather not say. At the time I didn't really care about, but looking back I should have banned him right then and there. Yes. Next game that guy complains that he should be able to learn from the rogue and the other players to get their class abilities like the kid. I explained out of game no, because the entire idea was yes, he was broken, but I made sure that in combat he wasn't broken and that he never takes the spotlight from anyone. He just complained and made a joke killing the kid. Cleric and Druid looked at the guy like they're about to kill him. Next game starts, the guy is quiet, so is Druid. Mid game, she sends me a screenshot of that guy trying to flirt with her Druid and saying she is still not interested like 7 times. I stop the game, say rocks fall and kill that guy. He is confused before I ban him from the server. The rest of the campaign was amazing. Also, this was the only bad time I had with D&D as a DM. Perfect. He used rocks fall, you die. That was amazing. I double face palm during that. DM's friend almost ruins game, tries to kill other players because chaotic neutral. This is from a player. Alright, it's been a few years since I've recalled this story, but I'll do my best to retell it because it's frankly the worst player I've ever had to play with. Granted, I don't play with randoms from gaming stores much, but every time I have, I seem to find a good group of people aside from this one. Party makeup was me, Whisper Bard, Paladin, Vengeance, Fighter, Eldritch Knight, Warlock, Hexblade. We had just all met through this campaign of Storm King's Thunder at a local store, and despite it being my first time partying up and playing with randoms, we all had some respect for one another and our different playstyles. I'm a fan of Critical Role, so I did more RPing and accents for my character. My character was lawful evil, but willing to work with the party for my own security. The fighter was new to the game and was willing to take advice, having a ball using 2-weapon fighting. The Warlock was in the same boat as me, another always DM just looking to play casually a bit, and the Paladin was a power gamer who didn't do much roleplay, but was the opposite of a toxic power gamer. You play the way you want to. I just like mid-maxing my guy. He was always helpful to the fighter and was the rules lawyer of the group. We had played several sessions together, got a good vibe from the way each other plays, and we're all around a great group of people. DM was new. It wasn't his first game. We would all help him out or accommodate him to make the rules on the fly if needed. We were about level 5, I believe, at the time of this specific story. The DM asked one evening if he could have a friend join who was having trouble finding a group because of the people, and we all said, yeah, sure. DM was a chill guy, so we didn't see an issue with it. Then the druid shows up. Incident number 1. First off, we thought he'd be a great addition to the team. He was role-playing his character, eating lunch and talking. He had a bit of an accent, flair to his mannerisms, so I was super happy to have him. He mentioned his character was chaotic neutral. This is important. During the first session with the druid, he was brought along to help us safeguard this object of great importance from point A to point B, and druid was introduced as someone who could help with that. So we set off, doing a little RPing and overall enjoying the vibe. Then, while crossing a bridge, a young adult green dragon comes from the river and demands us to hand over the object because apparently he sensed it. I was the face of the party, so I decided to be reasonable and talk with the dragon and talk our way out of... Oh, the druid just cast Call Lightning. I guess we're fighting now. The druid then argues that the dragon should take extra lightning damage because he's in water. Okay, not how the spell works, but I understand the reasoning. DM gave an extra dice of damage as if it was upcast. Druid then argues he should go first in initiative because he acted before anybody else. DM says he can have a surprise round, but he'll have to roll initiative like everybody else. Druid then says because the dragon was surprised, he should get to do his bonus actions and have a full turn. The dragon should have roll with disadvantage. At this point, I was looking over the experienced players at the table. Warlock and Paladin looked at me, and I think we already caught the vibe we didn't like. We rolled for initiative this time. I did poor, and everyone else was going ahead of me. The DM ruled that the water is shallow, and at this time of the year, and we could get in and stand in the lake, but it would be difficult to rain. Fighter does a fighter, runs and attacks a dragon. Warlock does the same. Paladin does the same. Dragon does some attacks and then some damage. And what's left is the order of Druid and then me. I don't know why you all ran in the water. I call lightning. I'm shocked, as is the Warlock and Paladin. The mood at the table instantly soured by this one moment as the rest of the party is arguing why he's deciding to do that. Druid argued, well, you saw me do call lightning before. I also don't know your characters, so I don't care too much if they get hit, dude. Even the fighter, who's always laughing and having fun, is a bit angry at the druid, rolls his lightning damage, and everyone has to make a save. Paladin reminds them that his aura, which has definitely helped. However, to rub salt in the wound, the druid says, and it still does the extra damage to them because they're in the water, right, DM? DM also seems a little bit befuddled by this entire mess and stays true to his word and do an extra damage, saying at least the dragon takes it too. Now it's my turn as a bard. I do my best to provide some support, throwing a bane on the dragon and inspiring someone. I also tried to yell them to get out of the water if they could, but at this point we're all in character screaming at him and never to do it again. The turns go back around, fighter fights, warlock smites. Paladin also smites as we tried to burn down the dragon, but no luck. Druid's turn. I cast Call Lightning again. You guys should have moved. Extra D8 too. Are you flipping kidding me? Hexblade goes down. Fighter is barely alive with his Goliath Stone's Endurance, which helped. Paladin is also barely up. My turn. Everyone at the table is pissed. I do my first instincts as a bard and try to do healing word to save him from dying. Druid starts saying that because the hexblade is prone, he's underwater, drowning, and he can't hear the healing word, so he can't be healed. Warlock is staring daggers at Druid right now and is completely red in the face. Luckily, I took the message cantrip, which is I was basically Bard Rogue, and I asked the DM if I could message the Warlock with a healing cantrip and the healing word to get him up. DM loved the idea so much to get around the underwater issue. It worked. We got the melee back up, who proceeded to wail on the dragon, killing it before the druid's turn came up again. Before we could confront the druid character, the DM felt the heat from the table and called the game there. When we talked to the guy, he just used the old phrase, I don't know you guys, it's what my character would have done. The dragon was the biggest threat, and then he left. We all stayed a bit later to complain to the DM, who said he'd talk to the druid and see what we could do next time. No one wanted to be there next time. Unfortunately, it was a few sessions later. Incident number 2. He popped up at our game store again at some point, and the DM assured us that he talked to the druid about the Arsenine stuff last session, and druid promised to stop it. Before this though, Warlock and I did some digging and found out the reason the druid hasn't been able to find a game is because he was kicked out of most of them. Gee, I wonder why. DM asked us to give him a second chance. The druid nearly needs to socialize and get out of the house. Okay, sure, we give him a second chance, trusting the DM. Next session we played with him, our party was in town. Split up as we were doing personal errands and shopping. Fighter and I were doing classic fix the fighting arena scam so we could win big. You know, vicious mockery on the fighter's opponent and inspiring him to do to hedge bets. We made a decent bit of gold. Meanwhile, Druid, Warlock and Paladin were looking to make the material we'd harvest from the Green Dragon into some armor and weaponry. Shopkeeper gave us a price and a time frame for it to be done by, and the Paladin and Warlock were like, okay, cool, but not the Druid. Druid begins demanding to have the items be free because in nature you take what you want, which would make sense for a wild druid who probably is new to society but his character wasn't. DM made Druid roll for intimidation and it was a failure. Warlock and Paladin are asking to leave, but then Druid transformed into a bear and says he tackles the shopkeep and holds the shopkeep's throat in his jaw. Oh. Druid also had an annoying habit of speaking like the animal he's currently transformed into and then being upset no one understood his plans, like the call lightning. So he's demanding the shopkeeper give us the not yet made items for free in bear form, where the shopkeep cannot understand him. At this point, Paladin stops trying to reason with the druid out of character and smites him so hard the druid loses bear form, to which Hexblade profusely apologizes to the NPC, and they take our material and meet up with me and the fighter as the shopkeeper is going to run to get the guards. Druid turns into a panther or some other large cat, chases after him and kills him in the streets. Again, chaotic neutral. Paladin and Warlock fled the scene, claiming they didn't see it because they don't want to be around for when he gets caught, which is fair. I wouldn't want to be there either. I don't remember how, but the druid managed to get away with this, probably because people saw a large cat and there was no one to blame. Not a person anyway. Yikes. After we earned some gold, my character was off to assassinate a target of his. Psychic Blades and Sneak Attack are fun. And after Fighter and I did that, I turned the body invisible so we could dump it outside the city. The guards were roaming around now, very active, looking for a killer, and even questioned Fighter and I. However, body being invisible helped with a deception check, and we were able to get free. The druid argued that that's not how invisibility worked, but the DM thought it was a creative use and was allowing me to do it. Rules as intended. The druid then tried to get the guards to double check the fighter and me because we were suspicious and said we smelled like blood, so we might have killed the shopkeeper. DM didn't make him roll a deception, and I was kind of mad that my expertise deception check was now being overwritten by a narc. But the guards brought over dogs to smell us. Luckily, prestidigitation changed the smell of a sweaty bar because, well, we were fighting at the arena and everything checked out. At this moment, I was frustrated, but I wanted to get some payback to the druid. After taking care of our business outside and dumping the body in the lake, Fighter and I offered to help investigate the body of the shopkeeper, and with lucky roll from the fighter, determined the wounds to belong to a large cat that they were looking for. Maybe a druid or some other shapeshifter, I told the guard. Druid was pissed, staring daggers at Fighter and me, saying we were metagaming the situation, which we rolled. It was almost like the druid saw the other players as his opponents and playthings. It was such a bizarre thing to see, as this was my first time actually dealing with a problem player. I don't think we ever got those dragon items made in the end. Anyways, I have more with this guy. When I have time, I'll try to write here and update it. I like that. The response for "it's what my character would do" should nearly always be, then make one that wouldn't. Also, chaotic neutral does not mean batshit crazy. That is true. Chaotic actively rejects the rules of law, i.e. does not let the man tell them what to do. Neutral doesn't let the urge to hurt people or the urge to help people affect their decisions. It's basically what would do me the most good right now. Selfishness. Acting repeatedly in a way that harms people is evil. Chaotic neutral person might run away from a fight like, that thing might hurt me and you guys aren't paying me to stay in this fight, so I'm not going to be here. Player killed his whole party despite multiple warnings. This is from a player. So to preface this, most of the party was relatively new. This was the third session of their second campaign, and I was planning it to be the climax of their learning adventure. We had 3 level 5 PCs, an Alan Damper Barbarian, Shadowkai Hexblade, and a human rogue sorcerer. And a level 6 NPC, human rogue, named Horatio. They all had magic weapons. Okay, cool. The party was tasked to invade a castle to free their fellow pirates from the Lord set to execute them. They managed to successfully sneak around most of the lower level guards and monsters until they got into the hall before the throne room. There, they saw a man enter the throne room with another stand guard, a king. The king was incredibly powerful and could throw greatswords like daggers, but the party was coordinated enough to take him out in 2 rounds. We were all impressed, except for the rogue sorcerer. We'll call him Cantaloupe. Cantaloupe had hoped for the killing blow, but it was taken by the barb, who smashed the king's head in. Going into the final room, they all healed up, and Horatio was leading the charge, by the party's desire. It really made the dialogue I prepared awkward. They found out that the Lord, the Emperor, was in fact a lich, based off Philippe Witterbane from Owl House, okay? This lich was in no way nerfed, but he was alone. With the party's current weapons and spells, he could be challenging, yes, but the Emperor was arrogant and only used low-level spells at first. This meant that we could, with their proven coordination, defeat the lich rather easily. Cantaloupe had different plans. The Hexblade was nearly immediately reduced to 2 HP due to receiving a natural crit from a spell, and having low health to begin with, they had a -1 con mod. Horatio was up next, and cut down the Lich by 1/5 of his HP. Up next was the Barbarian, same story. Now we come to Cantaloupe. Cantaloupe had 2 health potions remaining, due to being conservative with their usage. Instead of using a health potion on the Hexblade, like she was begging, he decided with everyone else in front of him to use Thunderwave. Needless to say, not the best move, and the Hexblade was immediately downed. The Lich, sensing opportunity, used an AoE spell. Can't remember which one, but it was low level, which conveniently missed the Hexblade, but hit everybody else. Horatio and the Barb both beat the shit out of the Lich, who was close to death. Well, what does Cantaloupe do in the next turn? He decides to Thunderwave again. Despite his whole party pleading for him not to, I made him quadruple check he was sure he even explained the consequences if he went through with it. So what can Cantaloupe do? He casts Thunderwave. This immediately killed Shadakai, downed Horatio, and lowered the health of the Barbarian below half. After this, the Lich used Fireball, which killed everyone in the room, and that was how he was meant to be played if he ever got to exactly 1 HP, which he did. Needless to say, no one was happy after the session ended. We played with Cantaloupe for one more campaign, but we kicked him out after a whole different horror story. Don't use AoE when your party's around. Why would you use Thunderwave? Like, you were a rogue sorcerer? Why didn't you just attack him directly? He's by himself. Why did you use AoE? Well, you want to kill him? He wanted to kill everybody. It sounds like he wanted to kill everybody in the situation. That's just dumb. This is just really dumb.